What is going on, everybody? And in this video, we're providing you a state of the market and stock picks for December 30th, 2022. If that sounds like something you're interested in, consider subscribing as I do provide daily and weekly updates to get you prepared for the day and the week ahead in this glorious market. Now, we are going into the last day of the stock market. There's been a lot that's gone on this year. But to get straight into what is currently happening today. There was jobless claims today, which is actually funny because the market ripped. Not in a good sense. The job claims actually rose by 9,000, but it hit expectations. And this is something. This is what I've been talking about. Is that as long as expectations are on par, even though they're in the dirt. The market will run off that, right? It will provide essentially hopium to the market that at least analysis are on par. It is when we have we either go way outside of expectations, whether that's higher or lower, that things really start to get messed up. So you start seeing some bigger moves in the market. So the fact that the beef rose by 9K is pretty funny, but and we still managed to push today. But it's still, we still have to understand that again, there's going to be more of these layoffs. They're going to continue to see more layoffs and more jobless claims as people roll off of severance packages. And then technical wise, again, we are watching that 3,900. I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow we attempt to run a 3,900 and then potentially sell off from there, or maybe even not. We did almost hit a wall here today at the 38.56. Started to sell off a bit, but again, it depends on how we open. Again, I foresee more of this junk going into tomorrow. And then the nice thing again is with the low volume, there is a bigger move in the morning, but then again, after that, it dies off. And then next week, we do have the FOMC meeting notes and we have non-farms next week. It will be a short week, so be mindful of that. Next week is also a 4-day week of the market. The market will be closed on Monday, so you need to keep that in mind. And then we will go from that point. But ultimately, again, what we're looking at is just trying to set up for earnings. So being said, we will get some more data, some bigger data sets. I think that will move the market maybe a little bit more. Again, because we're going to have a prolonged period of time, essentially before the next monetary policy being on the 1st of February. But all that being said, tomorrow is Friday. We will see what happens during the morning. Again, I expect a bigger move in the morning and then essentially tapering off from there. But ultimately, I don't want to get too much into a whole thesis about end of year, this past year, and going into 2023. I will do that on the weekly update. Get more in depth on that. So if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing, as I will get more in depth in that. I do provide deeper analysis during the week, as daily volatility does fluctuate a lot. News events do occur. And that's why I do daily updates, because it's important to know what's going on day to day. And then overall, come into a weekly update, kind of foreseeing forecasting what to expect throughout the week is important. And then and reflecting. And I think I'll do that all this weekend as you guys get more insight into what I'm thinking into that point. And then also, what I'm consider doing is doing a podcast as well. So just for the week, kind of weekly updates, I do provide more detail in that. I will try to take the audio from here and from a weekly update and pull that into a podcast. So if you can't make it with on YouTube, you want to see the charts, maybe you don't want to see the charts, maybe you're just here for the analysis, which a lot of people might be, then I will put that out there. I will start looking at that. Hopefully this weekend I'll try to do that and start getting that for the new year and have something new to provide you guys with as well. So if that sounds good to you, go ahead and drop a thumbs up in the video below. But nonetheless, going into tomorrow, we wait and we see. We've done a lot of that, and again, we don't have a lot of news. So again, negative news, and we pumped today. So I find that quite interesting. Again, we were at a bottom, so you have to be mindful of that. We were running around at the 3790, the 3800. It's typically been a bounce zone anyway. So just playing this tight range. I move typically 1 hour, and then after that, it just dies off after that, after the first market open hour. So we will see there. Looking over everything in general, again, market, I think we won't move out of there tomorrow. Dollar again consolidating a lot. It actually looks like this thing wants to rip, to be honest. So we'll definitely have to be watching the dollar coming into the new year. Bitcoin, same thing. Even with all the FTX stuff, it's still consolidating very well. The problem is if a crisis occurs in the general economy, is that going to be enough to take down crypto? I do believe crypto is going to lead the way when the market does turn around. At what point, I don't know. I'm still waiting to see this catalyst play out, and then I would assume that crypto would be leading the way on that front. Is it going to break away from the market? I don't know if it's going to break away from the market, but I think it'll run in parallel. So when we pivot, I think Bitcoin in itself will be one of the major lead indicators, and along with tech, when tech starts to run back. But that's all talking about a pivot, and we're not really sure if we're going to get a pivot next year. I do believe we can pivot before the Fed do, but it really just depends on the timing of everything and what the monetary policy looks rolling out. If there's an event, I think right after that big event, it could be a pivotal period depending on where the Fed is sitting at the time. So there's a lot of different scenarios that could set up, and you have to be mindful of that. And that's why you can't just say, well, it's going to go up all this year, it's going to go down, we're going to have a good year, bad year. Obviously, we had a very horribly bad year, and I was assuming we would have recovered by the back half of the year. But again, things weren't playing out that way. I saw them in June, July as not really playing out. There was just too many what if scenarios, and then it continued to get worse. And so now it's leading into what I'm normally am a perma bull into more of a bearish sentiment going into 2023 until we get that event. And then once that event happens, then I will shift focus more to a perma bull at that point again, and thinking that we could have potentially hit bottom, and that we could make our way back up from there. Again, I don't believe it's going to be a V-shaped recovery, but again, I'll get more into that during the weekly update. So we're watching that. Oil's still high at 78. The bonds, let's take a quick glance. The bonds still sitting at 100. Again, one of the worst years for bonds as well. So could be a higher low, but it really just depends. Same with the market. I still think earnings are going to expose a lot. That may start leading some of the downslide going into the new year. And then if that event occurs, again, that could be even more fuel to the downside. So it's something really to watch. Tesla, Apple, again, started to recover today. Again, very, very overextended selling. You really have to be careful with this. This just could be an oversold bounce setting up. Maybe this actually has a big day tomorrow, but you definitely want to be watching roughly around that 145 tomorrow. If for some reason Tesla makes it up to 145, you could expect a very hard rejection off that, and that's a daily support. So you might run a couple hours even over that into the 150s, only to wick back down and start selling. So you have to really be careful with Tesla. In my mind, it still needs to prove itself. This was way overextended, so it needed some sort of bounce. We're getting that now. Question is, can it break back up, or are we going to see lows under 100? So again, 108 being the low, and right now it filled the small gap to 123. Again, we want to see if this thing does roll over and continue selling. Apple, again, recovered some today. Same situation. Tech is very, very, very weak. And again, I think we're going to get more exposure. That's going to be more exposed when we do have earnings. So we need to keep that in mind. I'm trying to think if we can get some sort of pump before going into any major cataclysmic event that's going to correct the market potentially even more. And my question is, how much strength are we going to get for that? And is the market really going to bounce? Typically, in normal cycles, it does. But again, we have to see. Maybe the new year, the volume pushes it back up just enough to sink us. So again, we will see. It's always a wait and see how things look in the morning. BA again, still holding. It's one of the things that is holding the market. Again, if BA goes down, the rest of the market's going to come with it. The rest of the market's index is barely holding on, while everything else is getting absolutely obliterated when it comes to tech. So BA is still holding. Banks, obviously, they've been doing a lot of fake outs too. The banks have barely been holding. Still watching that 130. If we break that, could get a nice pop up to 137 potentially before the next retest of the downside, and see if we do break that and start selling. Again, I think bank earnings always are really telling. So once they occur, you could get some massive selling in the rest of the market if the bank earnings are bad. So they're already projecting and talking about it, but we'll see. We'll see what happens on that front. But that's pretty much what I got. It is only Friday. Again, I don't like making these videos long when there's not really much to discuss. I'll get more into a lot of different things, looking over the past year and looking into the new year and the weekly updates. There's a lot of takeaways and what we could be projecting, what we should be looking at. And in my opinion, from that point, again, I think there's still potential of a pivot next year, even though the Fed is not saying that. Again, the market can break away from the economy, but you still need that event to occur. You can get in prematurely. It may be nothing. It may be something. We may, like I said, we may correct another 20%, but we don't know for sure. And so it's always good to be patient. I know it's been hard, especially during this market. It's been extremely choppy and really tested a lot of patience. I know even for myself. So it's just waiting and seeing, and then going from that point. So if you made it this far, I do appreciate you. Go ahead and drop a thumbs up. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.